Your singing has scared me. Silence. Dead silence. Dead silence.
I don't know anybody who'd be scared by singing.
But your singing is not everybody's singing.
Well, of course.
The beautiful sky is gone. You missed it.
What do you mean we missed it? We saw it.
Well, I saw it all. Because
I saw it too.
I was awake and doing things. Silly things, but things.
What have you-
Nonetheless.
What have you been doing? Apart from making me coffee.
Making your coffee?
Yeah, in a cat cup with a butterfly.
Well, yeah, there's nothing like cat cups with butterflies. I mean, those cups will be worth a fortune in about
1,000 million
Yeah.
years.
yeah.
When
Yeah.
people drink holographic
They
things.
people drink holographic. I can't wait to see that.
You won't, because you won't be here.
Well, there you go. That's why I can't wait.
You can't. You really can't.
I can't. No, that's what I mean. I can't. I have to go. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope not yet. I hope.
They're going to dig up that cup, and they're going to be like, oh, they worshipped cats and butterflies. That was their religion because they put them on cups.
Yeah.
And then they'll
They drank their blood or something like that.
dig up like minions cups, and they'll be like, and they worship minions as well.
And they will think that there was this I don't know, this alien civilization invading Earth, and that people drew them and stuff.
No,
Yeah.
that's just you, I think.
They could think that they could think that minions are just crude drawings of actual alien civilization or something. Maybe they'll think that people looked like that.
What, like those Easter Island statues?
Yeah.
Like maybe that was all just a joke, right? We'll create some of these weird-looking things and
Big heads.
with big heads because we've got nothing better to do with our time and we're being all creative. And thousands of years later, people are like, oh, wow. And they thought they were gods.
Maybe they just made big heads so because they thought, if anybody passes by in their wee boat and sees big heads, they'll not come to our island. Maybe they just couldn't be bothered with tourists.
Yeah, well, that maybe they just weren't interested.
Maybe they just liked heads. And they had
Teds.
heads. Maybe they just liked heads. And they had some big stones on their hands. So, well, why not carve them? Right?
Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would
mean,
carve a big stone if I had one and had nothing better to do. If I didn't have to do translations, I'd carve a stone.
No, you wouldn't.
Well-
You would not do that at all.
Well, I
You
would
would
if I
surf
didn't have
Facebook.
to. What?
You would surf Facebook.
I didn't have Facebook back then.
Oh, and they didn't have translations back then either. I
No,
would like to
no,
remind you.
exactly. All they had was just,
What?
they just needed to get food. And if you have a lot of food because you fish and stuff, and you have nothing else to do, then you carve rocks, I suppose, unless you've got children to take care of. Must have been a man who did that.
What?
Carved out that rock.
Maybe it
Took
was the
those
kids.
rocks.
Maybe they got the kids to carve the rocks.
Maybe. That would be even, get that? Yeah, maybe, yeah. Maybe there was a woman with like 15 kids and she was just so desperate. She was like, kids,
Carve.
carve. Here you go. And
Carve. Kill time until Dad comes back with the fish.
Yeah, and she didn't hear from them for 2 weeks until they carved a rock or something.
No,
Why don't we do that?
No fish until that rock is carved.
Why don't we just get a big rock and just send the kids to carve it in the garden?
Because
That might keep them busy for a couple of days.
I don't know of any tool that would carve a rock.
A harder rock.
I don't know of any tool that would carve a rock.
A harder rock. No?
What? Is that a sentence or a word?
It's a phrase. I don't know. It's a noun phrase. A harder rock will carve a softer rock, no?
What?
Well, how did they carve them back then?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
They
I
had
don't
to
know
use a
exactly. I
harder
don't know
rock
how
to
they
chip
did it.
away from the softer rock. No, that's how you do it.
Chip chip.
Hmm.
I don't know how they did it. I mean, I assume that they would have had slightly more sophisticated tools.
Well, I don't know. Did they?
I mean, how do you? I mean, you can't just carve rock, can you? I mean, it's got to be a certain kind of rock, and it's got
Yes.
to be. You got to have the.
Where did those rocks come from? Are they from the island? Did they import them?
I don't think they had a system of importing at that point in time.
Especially not huge rocks. Yeah, I understand.
I believe
that.
there was a quarry on the island, and that the giant
quarry.
Easter Island statues were quarried and moved from one part of the island to the other.
How old are they?
Don't know. Don't know. That's a question for the sticky system of Google.
It's called the Easter Island, is it?
I believe it is, and I imagine that's just because it was discovered at Easter,
Maybe.
or it was in the East, or
Yeah. Maybe.
or I can't think of any other reason why they would call it that.
Okay, Google.
What? You can't say that because that'll set off my phone. Stop it.
Hi, how can I help?
Yeah.
Yes, you can't do that because my phone
Oh.
is set up for that system as well. And
Okay. Oh, never mind. I'll just type it in.
Here are the top search results.
No, you don't even know what I want to search for. Shut up. God.
Can you imagine someone in a restaurant saying that, and like all the phones would just react? And I mean, it should be theoretically patterned to your voice.
Should it?
Yeah, because
Did?
you have to set it up to your voice.
How
But
old?
I've noticed with the maybe it doesn't set off my phone. I've noticed that when I use the system in the kitchen, that it sets off my phone at the same time as it sets off the kitchen system.
Yeah, mine
But-
does the same.
But maybe my phone is not.
This is freaky. Look, I just typed this in and the first thing that came out was my question, eh?
How old are the statues?
Yeah,
And the first one is, how old are the statues on Easter Island?
yeah.
What if that is the most common question?
It might be. It's really weird though.
But it's not really weird if, how old are the statues? Probably like 9 times out of 10 people write on Easter Island following that. Because statues where? What other collection of statues are famous? There are not really.
Look, archaeologists have documented 887 of the massive statues known as moai, but there might be as many as 1,000 of them on the island.
What does that mean? There might be as many as 1,000. Are they imagining that there's more that they haven't discovered?
I don't know. I have no idea. They were carved from volcanic rock between 1,100 and 1,680. That's a pretty long time ago.
No, I was
It's
going
not
to
the
say.
Stone
I was
Age,
going to
but-
look. I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say that it's not that long ago.
Well, from them saying that, it's obviously not Stone Age long ago, so they must have had more
So obviously it was for
sophisticated
them.
tools. Yeah. They must have had more sophisticated tools to carve them, I suppose. But
But yeah, it's not. I mean, we're talking at the time that the Roman Empire was.
oh, they
maybe
did.
at
Check it
its
out. Hey,
height. What?
uh,
Is this?
the statues using basalt stone picks.
What's that?
Basalt is a type of rock.
Okay.
Stone picks, the Easter Island Moai, were carved from the solidified volcanic ash of Rano-Raraku volcano.
Is there a volcano on the island?
Yes. They
Hmm.
are all monolithic. The carvings are created in one piece and an average weight of 20 tons and measuring 20 feet tall or more. So they used hard rocks to carve them from soft rock. Well, solidified volcanic ash must be quite
It's amazing how you pass your time on
when
an
you
island.
when you're bored.
When you're bored and there's not much else to do.
There's no tele reception.
There's no other resources. I mean, they probably had like swimming races and boat races and I don't know, maybe they flew kites or something. And then they carved statues.
Yeah, that is so cool though. It just shows you that when people don't procrastinate, they create. That's so cool. Or maybe it was a type of procrastination back then. You know?
Maybe it was a punishment. Like maybe if you committed a crime or you did something bad against somebody, you were forced to
Carve a rock.
yeah, your what's the word? Your penance, your punishment.
Maybe it was like a major procrastinator. Maybe people were like, "Oh, look at that fucker! We've been hunting all day, and he's been carving his bloody rocks again. He's not going to be getting any dinner." You know?
Well, maybe there were other amazing things happening, but and maybe like the stone carvers were considered the freaks and the weirdos and the outcasts, but the stone carvers were like, people are going to remember us long after you're gone, and everyone laughed at them. But they were kind of right
Yeah.
because everything else disappeared.
Maybe they
except
took
for
drugs and you know thought that they communicated with the gods, and the gods told them to carve massive heads,
it's not heads; it's full figures.
and people would be like, "Yeah, right."
Because they thought it was heads originally, but then they discovered that most of the body was underground. It's not just head; there's a whole body there with feet and arms.
Gwhnsa. Does it have feet as well?
Yes. What do you
Really?
think it stands on? It's a whole
Really?
body. with
I thought it
feet
was like
and
a
arms.
torso or something.
No, it's got feet and arms and hands.
Well, why did they chuck them so deep in the earth?
But they didn't, I don't think. I think that they...
You reckon the volcano just kind of ran around them and they sank?
I don't think volcanoes run around things.
Well, you know what I
I think they
mean.
stay in the
The
same
lava.
place. I think they kind of... That could be one of the reasons.
Maybe
Or
they
maybe
sank.
they just sank into the
Yeah,
earth.
like those houses in the beach.
Yeah. I mean, that took like the houses on the beach took a number of years, maybe 50, 60 years to sink. So yeah, that would be possible theoretically. I heard a story once that there was a big storm somewhere in Scotland, and the storm moved so much of the ground and the earth that they discovered the roofs of houses of a village that was long forgotten.
Brigadoon?
Does that? No, that's a film with Gene Kelly. It's a good film. It's a kind of.
It has been long forgotten.
It has been long forgotten, though. Yeah. It's a good film in the musical fantasy genre, which is a very strange genre of films. But I guess no more strange than The Wizard of Oz. But there we go. Do a search on Google for. Are you enjoying looking at the pictures there?
I'm just looking at those. Looking at
Look,
he
arms
has
and hands
It's
and
holding
feet.
his whatever. There.
Bimbish.
Yeah,
Um,
looks like he's peeing.
Well, it looks like a woman
Look,
to
it
me.
looks
It
like
looks
he's
more
going to
feminine.
pee.
It
But doesn't have boobs.
It's got a big stomach, though.
You think that women have big stomachs?
When they're pregnant.
Doesn't have big. It's
Well,
just
I
a
looked
guy.
at it. My first thought was
Look.
there's a pregnant statue.
No, it's a guy with a beer belly peeing because he's holding his.
The Easter
You
Island
know.
statues were not urinating.
Looks like they
That's-
are.
That-
Maybe that was a joke. Maybe they like built them along the coast and like, oh hey, let's pretend that the sea is just a pee of these big giants. So
Oh,
they built
the-
a lot of
you-
big
you-
giants
you-
urinating into the sea, and it was
What?
supposed to be a joke.
What?
Yeah,
Are you
they
okay?
laughed every time they saw them.
Oh well, you would have fitted in really well there, wouldn't you? Yeah, yeah. You and
They
about
would,
5 million
look,
college
it's
students.
obvious the bloke. Look, it's got teeny weeny
What are the
little.
tits? It's got tits. Look, I'm looking at the picture there.
Because he's fat.
Does it? Oh, those just is that just flab then?
Yeah. So I mean, what's that teeny weeny little?
That's a belly button.
Gizmo there. Not that.
He's holding a
that's
mobile.
Holding a mobile.
he's,
phone.
he's holding a mobile.
At his crotch.
He's taking a picture of himself.
Oh, he's got knickers on.
What?
Look.
Is he wearing something?
Yeah.
What?
He's got tongs. He's wearing tongs.
What?
Thongs. What do you call them? What do you call the knickers that?
Togs. Isn't that stuff you have for a barbecue?
I don't know. What do you call the knickers that dive into your butt crack?
I don't know what those are called, and I'm happy that I don't
Well,
know
he's
what they're
wearing
called.
them, obviously.
It's like what sumo wrestlers wear.
I thought sumo wrestlers were wearing giant nappies.
Yeah, they did resemble that a bit, I suppose, as I try to flash
look, there's
through
another
the
one.
pages of my mind. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm
What are you
fine.
doing? Can you type into Google storm? Let's think of keywords because you need keywords. Storm reveals storm reveals old Scottish village, and see what comes up. Because I'm pretty sure that there was a story that I read once upon a time, not so long ago.
Scottish
in
what?
a land far, far away.
Village.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was a storm, and it uncovered.
The roundhouse is
villages.
revealed by Scottish storm excavated ancient village.
Sorry.
Ancient village excavated.
No, it was a storm. No, it's not. You're not. Yeah, never mind.
What?
Never mind. Put your phone away.
Why Orkney is the center of ancient Britain?
Oh, gosh.
Skara
No, not that. Skara Brae was when the Skara Brae was revealed partly by a storm, but it was also the movement of the sea and the tides as well that revealed that. But I was talking about a different place. There was a more modern place that was
Heatwave
forgotten.
reveals new evidence of ancient settlements.
Would you stop? Okay, can you please put your phone away?
Well, you just asked me to Google something.
Yes, I
so
know,
don't-
and then I realised that
know.
you were going to spend the next half an hour scrolling up and down through your phone, reading things that were not exactly what it was that I wanted to find or look for.
Google didn't come up with what you wanted it to come up with.
Well, you have to
Naughty,
find the right
naughty Google.
keywords. You have to put in the right keywords, and sometimes getting the right keywords is difficult because you have to remember the title of the article. Are you okay?
I need to
you
scratch my
doing?
leg.
Okay.
I'm scratching my leg.
Ah.
That a
well,
problem?
Um,
Do you have a problem with that?
Not as much as I have a problem with your changing accents.
Change.
You're developing a Scottish accent.
There's a saying, no? Like change is the something of something. Of progress. Change is the something of progress.
Well, get that and put that on a T-shirt, all right? For sure. For
No,
sure.
there is a saying like
So
that.
can I quote you on that? And then, what Yanka says is, and now listen to this really carefully because this is really important. Change is the something of progress, and the deeper question is, what is this something? And we have to think, we have to stop, and we have to think about, what is this something? Because this something is not just nothing; it's actually something.
It's the dilemma of the writer, the dilemma of a writer
What?
is how much am I going to tell my readers and how much am I going to leave out for them to guess, And it's exactly that thing. You're not, if you put that on a t-shirt, you're not underestimating your t-shirt readers by
T-shirt.
giving them all the information, but you're challenging them to think for themselves.
What?
Yes.
People can't think for themselves, can they?
Of course they can. If you tell them that changes the something of progress, You're challenging them to think.
Maybe you're just challenging them not to think, and they just keep going, keep reading, and this idea that people are thinking is.
Did you just say maybe you're challenging them not to think?
I can't remember what I said. Maybe that's what came out. I can't remember now.
No, I don't think I would challenge people not to think. Thinking is
that's
easy.
the dilemma of the writer, isn't it?
Thinking is for losers. But have you ever tried not
What?
to think? I challenge you.
Well, you get all those motivational speakers that are like, the
Isn't
words without actions are just words.
Isn't that what guided motivations do? Well, not motivations. You just got me all mixed up. Isn't that what guided?
What?
Isn't that what guided meditations do? You know, guided meditations go like, let go of all your thoughts, focus on your breath.
Don't
They're
they-
like challenging you not to
Don't they
think.
take you around cities and stuff? Or is that?
That's
good.
guided tours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guided meditations.
Yeah.
Like, come with me, you will see. Oh no, that's a song.
Yeah.
Guided meditations. You are walking through a forest. You are touching the trees, and the trees are touching you. You are
Stop,
feeling.
that's just freaky.
Wow! Why is that freaky? Because is it like that? I don't know. I've never heard one.
I
Are
don't
they
want the
like
trees to touch me.
The leaves are.
Just imagine the trees like reaching with their branches trying to grip your elbow.
Yeah, that would be a kind of Halloween meditation.
That would be a bit spooky.
I mean, there's probably a market for that, right? I mean, there's a market for everything. So, the Halloween meditations, absolutely. There's a market for complete madness. So it would be like, allow yourself to feel the spookiness of the atmosphere. Let it tingle in your fingers and feel it transfer and transform your whole self, your whole being into something entirely different. And now you feel this sensation spreading through your body, reaching up through your chakras.
You're doing your
And-
BBC voice again.
Well, it would sound like that's how they do it, isn't it? That's how you get people to conform to insanity. You just talk in a
In a BBC voice.
yeah, BBC or NPR, or any other group of letters that sound cool together, and that's how you do it, because there was scientific analysis of voices, and what they discovered was that here's the silly classic example. They discovered that if Hitler had been less aggressive in his speeches, more people would have been inclined to follow him. And as a result, what you found was that those people who had more totalitarian approaches but spoke softly encouraged more followers. So there's this classical idea that totalitarianism is always very aggressive, but what a lot of people have discovered, and you can, if you want to look for an example of this, any interview with Bill Gates, for example, where he suggests some of the most, or Al Gore, they suggest some of the most extreme, insane ideas, but they do it in such a normal and polite way where if you think about it very carefully and you understand all of the key aspects of it, then like some kind of nature documentary, right? Where the birds are coming in from the west at the moment, and as you see, they're flying over the tops of these trees, and you know, if we get out our AK-47s and we get the direction and the angle right, we can take down every one of these little fuckers, and we can remove the problem from the skies.
I don't think that David Attenborough would have said that.
No, but he did get caught lying many times in his nature videos. So
Mhm.
he did, and then he was interviewed about it, and he was like, "Yes, well, we do that. It's normal."
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well, what was he lying about?
They said that they had real footage of the animals in the wild,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. It was shot in nature parks and zoos.
Oh.
So they were faking their footage basically, and he didn't he didn't apologize for it, which was quite funny.
Well, it's kind of, I get it though. I kind of get it though,
But there's no reason to bullshit about it.
Yeah, that's true. There is no reason to bullshit
I mean,
about it.
you can just say this is how it would happen. These scenes are representative of the wild, but we can't film it in the wild because A, it's difficult, and B, we disturb the animals.
Mm.
So you don't need to pretend that. And you see the baby polar bears here, snuggling in with their mother in the wild, and it's like they're in zoos.
Well, he
so-
doesn't really say this is in the wild though when he does the documentaries. He goes like, and now we see this happening, and now we see that happening, but he doesn't say, oh, we're in African. This is in African wilderness. All of this is in African wilderness.
Oh, it's
you know.
yeah, but it wouldn't be. It's not a big leap, to say that you would be doing the same thing if you were like pretending to film on a space station and doing it in a movie studio, because it's not real, and that's the point. The point is they're pretending, they're faking it, right? And that's wrong, and they're manipulating because they're not telling people. And they could just tell people the truth, and then there would be no issues.
Mm-hmm.
But they choose to pretend that it's more than it actually is. It's like when scientists release data from studies, and when you look at it, it ignores as much data as it accepts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we've discovered causality in 3 cases.
Mm-hmm.
And non-causality in every other single case that they studied. So.
Oh yeah, I understand. Lying is the lie.
It's not lying. It's just
lying by omission.
what?
Lying by omission.
Oh yes, yeah. Having the information but not sharing it with people, because
Which is always a bit mind-boggling for me. It's. It's like when you're lying by giving somebody the wrong information, right? Consciously, then you can just prove, okay, you're lying. But lying by omission is not. It's not as easily defined.
Well, there's no law that says newspapers have to tell the truth. And you would think that would be a fundamental law that would exist in all countries, that news media has to present the facts as accurately as is possible at that point in time. Obviously, you can get more facts later on which change things, but there's actually no rule or law about that. And the media is actually classed as entertainment legally, which means they can just write whatever they want and present it.
But you can, as a consumer, you can very easily see if a journalist piece is written, if something is done professionally or not. If it's being one-sided, then obviously it's one-sided. It's not good. It's not good quality. You need to get. Everybody knows that if you're doing a journalist work, you have to put in both sides. You have to stay objective, right?
Yeah, except I don't really know any media outlet that is objective. Even the ones that I follow, I'm very much aware of one-sided elements of their presentation, which of course you need to be aware of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's any unbiased and unbalanced media. I think there is some media which is better than other media in terms of their balance of presentation, but like take the BBC on climate change, right? I mean, the science is not settled. The scientists are constantly in disagreement. The statistics are constantly going up and down. And contradicting. And there was the hide the decline scandal where the universities destroyed the data because they didn't want people to know about it, and that wasn't reported on. And they have not been, what's the word, impartial.
Hmm.
Yeah, they have specifically followed certain agendas, and
Climate change really pisses me off because
because it's not happening here, and it would just be really cool if it was warmer.
no, that's not the reason. The reason is that I feel like it sidetracks from more pressing problems
It does, I agree.
because if you address other problems, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to reduce carbon footprint. I mean, obviously, because by reducing carbon footprint, you're reducing other things as well. But it works the other way around. By focusing on other things, on other environmental problems, you will reduce the carbon footprint as well, right? For example, the overproduction of plastic, right? If you stop the overproduction of plastic, then you will have a smaller carbon footprint, right? if you focus on supporting local community and local farmers, then you will have a smaller carbon footprint. So I think that there are things that are much, much more pressing and depressing, actually, like the pollution of water by all the factories in China and Bangladesh and God knows where the fabric is produced, and all the toxic stuff that's used for dyeing the fabric is released into the waters and rivers and the sea and everywhere, and the fashion industry that just completely, I don't even know the word, that is so big, people are such stupid people.
People are stupid people. And there
People
are
are
other people
such stupid people
who are
that
less
they
stupid.
go out there and they buy these beautiful, colorful clothes for extremely cheap, and they're like, "Oh, look, that's a great bargain." And they don't think that if they buy these tights for $2.50, it's because somebody somewhere in Bangladesh had to make those tights for like what? Let me think. Maybe 5p of wages, probably even less, right, per tights.
Well, yeah, and it's complex economics, and yet numbers are simple at their base.
And people are driving. I know it's probably complex, but people are being marketed consumerism as something positive, right? They're like, hey, more people buy, it drives the economy, and more people make money, and more businesses thrive, and yada yada yada. But more resources are used, and more shit is released into the nature, and more packaging is created, and that is released into the nature, and more people are underpaid, and more carbon is released into the environment because all these things need to be imported, and it's just it's not, I don't know, I can't see how that can be good. It could be great for the economy, but for nothing else. And the economy is just something that's supposed to serve people, right? It's not, you shouldn't try to boost it just for the sake of boosting the economy.
Well, that was that problem in Britain in the 60s when so many people were investing in investments rather than looking at building products and supporting society. And then part of the result of that was a kind of deindustrialization. And that was in offshoring our production, which you could say, okay, there are many advantages to that, but essentially you're just shipping jobs and factories abroad, which
Yeah.
um, creates problems at first, and there's the argument that it creates space for new opportunities, but it does create problems at the beginning.
Let's talk about clothes,
What?
right? Let's talk about clothes, right?
Do, 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 do,
So,
do, do.
number one problem. It's with any products really, but it's with clothes as well. Clothes are made not to last, right? So that the process of buying and throwing out and buying more is dynamic, and people have to buy new things almost every year because the things that they buy are so shitty that they lose shape and color, and the material gets torn very easily. I mean, you buy a pair of leggings and in a year you can see your own ass going through it because the fabric just gets rubbed away.
It's not just because your ass gets bigger.
No, the fabric just gets, thinner. It almost disintegrates on your ass, right? So you can see through your bloody leggings,
How uncomfortable.
and you get wee little holes in the fabric, and then you just throw them out. You can't pass them on to anybody because they're not wearable anymore, right? And so you end up buying 10 pairs of leggings in 5 years, right?
Hmm.
If you're being very, very trying to conserve resources, yeah, you probably buy much more if you're an average woman. So let's say you buy 10 pairs of leggings in 5 years, where you could buy 2 pairs of leggings that would last you 5 years, right?
Hmm.
And they could be, say, 3 times as expensive as the cheapy leggings that you're buying, but you'd be able to afford it because you would save the money, right? And the producer would get more money for selling them a bit more expensive, but they would be better quality. So it would be like a win-win situation. The producer wouldn't have to be producing huge amounts of things because he would sell better quality things for more, right?
Hmm.
And you wouldn't have to go to the shop every bloody year to choose leggings. You could just, if you weren't vain, right? If the fashion weren't selling you, oh, this year this is the trend, and next year this is going to be the trend. This year it's the leggings, and next year it's going to be the trousers in the shape of a fir tree or something, right?
Hmm. Well,
And that would
it's not
just be
just
so
about.
much better for everybody. Sorry, and you could create these things locally, right? Because you don't have to push the bloody price down. So you don't have to get them from China, right? You don't have to exploit people and children for doing your dirty work. Yeah, you can produce them locally with better materials, with just more ethically, and it's a you have smaller carbon footprint. It's a win-win situation. Less packaging. It's better for everything, right?
Maybe. I mean, we're looking at trends and habits, and what the manufacturers would say is that people wouldn't buy in that way because their aim is to create trends, and trends means, in that sense, trends means habits, and unless you do something regularly, you don't continue to do it, and the irregular purchase of products is a problem for producers because you don't know who's going to buy what when, and so you can't make any plans. So there's a strong argument from the other side that it's better to have regular short-term purchases than it is to have the long-term perspective, because
So it's
people
better for
might
your
not.
it's better for your economy. It's better for your benefits, right? It's better for your earnings as a business, right? But it's not better for anything else.
Well, you can argue that because it's better for the business, it creates stability, and because it creates stability, you can do more, you can plan more, you can prepare more, you can create more jobs, you can bring more money into the economy.
But I don't need more money in the economy. I need to have clean water. I need to have fish that are alive, I need to have octopuses that are not dying because they're eating plastic bags.
At the same time, you still need to be able to pay for those services.
What services?
For water. Water is a service.
Well, yes, I pay for the water service by paying the water company to take care of the pipes. What does that have to do with anything?
A lot, because the price that's charged for water is aggregated across what people could pay in society, depending upon what they're earning, depending upon what jobs and commerce is available within the region or the country or the area you're in or whatever.
Yes, but if I bring the industry home, isn't that better for the local economy? If I don't employ Chinese children for 5p a day.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously employing Chinese children is completely unethical, immoral, and
No, but I
should
mean,
never
if we're
start down
talking
that road.
economy-wise, right? If I'm here, I employ maybe less people. I don't know than I would employ in China, but I would employ adults and I would pay them fair wages, and which I could afford because I would sell the product more expensive. I don't know. I'm not a.
Well, you see, now you're starting to get into the conundrum of the business.
No, yes, I understand, but.
What is?
But
What does that mean? You mean
it's
you
like
feel
it
bad
worked
about it?
before, right? It didn't work before. It worked before.
Well, excuse me. It worked before. It didn't work before. It worked before. I misheard that. Obviously,
The
What?
middle was a question. Didn't it work before?
Didn't what work before? I'm confused.
Local producing local stuff.
It did, but then
I mean,
but then you didn't have the benefits of the beauty of import and export. Like, people in Britain can buy cars made in Slovakia, produced by firms from Korea.
I'm not against like any import. Obviously, that would just be socialism, right? That would not be good. But
Well, no, socialism doesn't mean. I mean, that obviously we're not against trade.
yes,
That's
but
the way
the
to look
thing
at
is that you must be able to do it more wisely, right? I mean, you said it's all about trends. There's one trend that you should be able to sell to public.
Trade is not all about trends. Buying habits and charging prices related to the quantity of what people buy is trends.
Yes.
It's not all about that.
Well, what I mean is you have to be able to market and sell sustainability to people. Because it's the right thing. Because sustainability is the right thing, right?
There's an argument that there's a counter argument to that. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that we want as many things as possible to be sustainable.
Like,
don't
I'd
disagree
rather
with that.
have.
But there's a big but though.
This is going to sound terrible, but I'd rather have lower standard of life, right, financial wise, than dead planet.
Yeah, well, that's like an obvious statement. It's like
Right.
Obviously, we would all accept slightly lower standards of life if the alternative was death to everything, right?
Yes,
But we don't have to live that way.
don't we?
No, we don't, because that's also a socialist principle. Because that's accept less, or the gods will cause a massive catastrophe.
No, it's.
But
Look,
it's
I
not
think that you can
it's not
always-
the individual's fault. That here's the point. Okay, this is really important. It's not the individual's fault that industry is the way that it is.
It is the individual's choice that can affect it, though.
Let me give you an example where, can the individual affect it? Absolutely. Consumer power is very important. If people don't buy products, then it's very hard for companies to produce, except where you allow socialism to creep forward slowly and you have subsidies, where the government begins to support things like French wine, for example. Right? French wine would be at a loss if it weren't for subsidies.
Look,
a lot
bottom
of the
line,
time.
bottom line is that people are very clever, and they can always, what's the word? Adapt, right? Very often they can adapt. Not
Yeah,
always,
to,
but
to,
I mean, you
to-
can
yeah,
adapt
clever-
to breathing underwater.
clever and adaptation are not on the same path always.
So if you create limits, whether they are enforced or not enforced, it doesn't matter. But if you create
think it does.
limitations in a certain way, then
All
they
limitations
can
have to be
always
forced.
adapt, and they can always find a way to grow within those limitations. So if you create limitations that will protect the planet, people can always learn and find new ways on how to grow a business in an ethical environment, with looking after ecology and all that shit.
Yeah, if I can interpret what you said, basically you're saying don't pollute.
You cannot not pollute at all. Like, we all poop, but
Well,
but you
of
can
course.
reduce it immensely, right?
Well, reduce the amount of
Pollution. You can. Yeah, it's just.
Yes, can we? Okay, yeah, but perspective. Okay, perspective. Like, let's see. Let's take a crazy example. Like one nuclear bomb test could create more pollution than entire countries of people. Yeah, so you got to put these things in perspective, right? So take the Trinity test were 50 nuclear bombs that were exploded in the upper atmosphere by the American government and other governments. I believe late 1960s. Yeah, and at that time people were like, "Oh, environmentalism," and meanwhile, radiation was raining down on
Yes,
everybody.
I know, I get it. But what you're doing is you're comparing. It's like I'm trying to draw an analogy
Okay,
here.
let me
You're
let me give
comparing.
you-
Can I finish? You're comparing that killing 100 people is worse than killing 50 people. Well, yes, of course, but killing 50 people is not very good either. Just because that thing is worse doesn't mean that thing is okay.
Okay. Are you aware that? Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but what I'm worried about is the end point. You have to look at where things are going, right? The end point of that is that there is something to gain from shutting down commerce, and that's dangerous. And let me give you the example. More pollution is created transporting cars from one part of the world to another part of the world by ship than is created by the cars themselves in their lifetime, right?
Okay.
So, and you pointed out earlier, focus is important, yeah? But people end up focusing on the cars and the pollution created by the cars, when the pollution created by the cars is far less than the pollution created by the transportation of the cars. And so, so all the focus is on something that even if you solve it, it's not going to have a great effect because there's something else that's having a greater effect that you're not changing. Now, that element is important to understand, because if you focus too much on, what's called, or you can call it a race to zero, which is we want, and this is actually what's happening, and this is the dangerous element of environmentalism. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for environmentalism, but I know that it can be misused. And the dangerous form of environmentalism is the race to zero, which is that we want to reduce all carbon emissions, and don't get me wrong, you can go online and you can find speeches by major industrialists who are all saying this. Yeah, and it's not difficult to find these. And they're giving these scientific speeches that a la Carbonaro effect, okay? So they're using a lot of language that people don't understand, in saying, we need to get this number to zero.
You can't get that number to zero because people breathe.
Well, not only that, getting the number to zero reduces commerce, and it's actually the commerce is the process through which we can improve. And if we're going to have a brighter future with, technology which seems to make a lot of sense, like putting solar panels on the roofs of houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seems to make a lot of sense. We're not going to get that without traveling through the process of using resources and energy to get there. And so what we do have to do is improve our production systems in the sense of reducing the amount of waste produced and recycling that, as has been seen in the petrochemical industry over the last 50, 60 years. I'm not saying that's a great industry, and it's destroyed large parts of the environment as well, but almost everything that's in this room that we're in has an element of that industry within it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wouldn't be able to see, people don't realize that they wouldn't be able to build the electric car if they weren't using the diesel car to transport the parts necessary to the factory.
Yes, but nobody
car.
wants to stop all production. Nobody wants to stop all industry. What I'm talking about is that you can build that car in a way that you won't have to replace it in I don't know, 7 years, 8 years. You can build that car in a way where it's going to last you 30 years, that you can drive it and it's not going to fall apart. You can still build that bike over there with its plastic parts and its aluminum parts, and you can use fossil materials to make that if you want to.
Okay, yeah, but let me give you...
But you can make it in a way that it's going to last longer, so you won't have to buy 30 bikes, but you will have to only buy 3 bikes in your lifetime.
Well, let me give you the counter argument to that. And see, I had that opinion until about 10 years ago. And then my opinion began to change because I could see that there's this idea that things being built to last is good in many ways and is bad in many ways. Now let's look at the good side. Okay, you want to take a house, for example, right? You don't want to build a house that's going to last for only 20 years or 30 years. You want to build a house that's going to last for, like, say the house that we're in right now is like 120 years old. You want to build it to last, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's take something else. Let's take a TV from like 30 years ago. You wouldn't want to be using today, although we're using today a house that was built 120 years ago and we're satisfied and we're happy with it. We wouldn't want to be using a TV from 30 years ago because we wouldn't be satisfied or happy with that. So with some elements of what we produce, we want there to be a limited span of life so that we can invest in improvement of that element. And it's a very difficult fine line because you don't want to build things that are going to break very easily and people are going to have to replace them. But you do want to build in a way that will get people to replace what they have. Now let me give you another example of this. Let me give you the example. The classic example is cars. Okay, now take a car that was built 20 years ago and compare it to a car that's built today. On the downside, the cars that are built today are not designed to last more than 10 years, right? They're designed to be replaced in less than 10 years. I think 7 to 8 years, right, is the average. Whereas cars built 20 years ago were designed to last, say, 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And people are like, these cars are not built to last and they're falling apart and there's all these, the I remember sort of looking at one of my parents' old cars and like, hey, it's all kind of rusted underneath. This is not good. And what people fail to account for is the fact that these cars built 20 years ago are completely unsafe.
Okay,
Completely
I get
unsafe.
your point.
And the cars that are built today are so much better, and you want everyone to have a new car because replacement of the parts is cheaper. The cars are safer. They've got more integrated technology in them.
Can
They're
I
more
say something,
comfortable.
please? I understand your point, okay? I understand completely your point that with some things, especially the things that develop
You don't want-
massively over time, you want to, if
You don't
will
want
to
your
follow.
computer
I
to
understand. I'm
last 20
talking.
years.
Yes, I'm talking, and I understand your point completely, and you do not have to illustrate it any further.
Yeah, but that
Well, at the same time, if you own a company that is producing stuff in that industry, then it is your moral responsibility, right? If you're making things that are going to be thrown out in 4 years because you know that because of the progress and technology, people will want to replace them with something newer and better and more effective, which is natural, yes. You have the moral responsibility. You have to make sure that everything that is in that product is getting recycled the way it is supposed to be recycled without causing harm to environment. And not only that, you have the moral responsibility to make sure that the production of that is not harming the environment. Okay, so I understand that you need to sell these computers cheaply because you want people to be able to afford another one in 4 years. Okay, I get that. Or you want to sell your phones cheaply because you want people to be able to afford another one in 1 year or 2 years.
or because people won't
want
buy
one.
them if they're expensive.
But you cannot bend your morals just because you want to sell your product. You cannot allow, you cannot fuel conflicts in Africa because of it. You cannot allow the massive pollution of environment by all the phone batteries being chucked and left in landfills and stuff. You cannot, you have the moral responsibility to have processes put in place that make sure that what you're doing is not causing a massive harm.
Yeah, okay. Here's a point. Like what happens if, as I saw happen in Slovakia, which is, people take their old fridge and throw it into the forest or
Yes.
the local river or something.
Uh-huh.
Is the manufacturer morally responsible for that?
Yes?
But you can't control what other people do in their homes.
Listen,
That's ridiculous.
You can absolutely control it. In
You
Slovakia,
can't control what
listen
people
to
do
me.
in their homes.
If you came to a person in Slovakia and said, okay, you have this old fridge, how about I come and pick it up from your house and give you €5 for it? Nobody would throw the fridges in the forest, even if you only paid them €5, right? Because you would take the time and the resources to go get that stuff, give the people the motivation not to chuck it in the environment, and do what you need to do with it. You can always, I'm not saying control, but at least hugely influence that kind of behavior in people.
I would argue that it's not that easy to influence people's behavior. That it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. And you're not considering all the marketing involved in doing that. I mean, you'd have to go through massive campaigning. You'd have to have newspaper, television, radio, pamphlets, leaflets,
But you already have
magazines.
that.
What?
I mean,
Who's
the
got
massive
that? I don't have
companies, the
that.
massive companies are already investing millions in marketing, so that it's always in your face. You've got fridges in your face saying buy our fridge, right? I mean, but so if they can put huge effort into marketing, buying the products, they can put as much effort in marketing the proper disposal of the
Good
product.
morning, darling.
Yes, it is an extra expense for the company, but that's what I'm saying. It's their moral responsibility.
Are you
to
going
do
to come
that.
and join us? No?
So
She's going to wander off.
there is absolutely no
Okay.
excuse. There is no excuse
No excuse for
to
what?
be exploiting people and environment in
Well,
production of your products.
There's a difference between producing products and exploiting the environment. I'm not sure that they can be connected in as simply a way as saying that. Are you going to? You're going to sort out the young lady who's awake. Yes. She's in a mood. Yeah. What are we talking about? Exploiting. I don't think that companies exploit people as much as it's advertised that they exploit people. And that ignores elements like what? Like agreeableness, where people will they custom what they do to the environment they live within. They just kind of fit into things, and that it's not that easy to influence people's behaviour. I mean, the British government has been trying for like 30 years to get people to be environmentally friendly, and they still can't put the rubbish in the right kinds of rubbish bins because their thinking is not orientated in that way. And it's not the people that create the packaging, it's the companies that create the packaging. So it needs to work on both sides, I think. And how much, when is clean, right? I mean, they call nuclear energy a clean technology. Is that really clean? I don't think it is. I mean, the potential disasters to the environment are epic and ongoing and generational, and it's something that we can't really see. It's an invisible danger. It's the same with when people replace their coal fires with electric fires, or with something else that doesn't produce smoke. You're in essence producing less heat, and it might be more controllable, but it also might be less comfortable. I mean, everybody knows that there's no substitute to the heat from a real fire, for example. So we have to stop and think, not just before we buy, but before we act related to what we buy, before we jump on the bandwagon of environmentalism, which is very often just an attempt to control resources, to control land, to control habits, which is not always a bad thing, because we want to influence people towards good habits rather than bad habits. We want to influence people towards focusing on not wasting things. But does society really work that way? Because there's a lot of contradictions. That which is easier is often ignored, actually, in the sense that we don't think twice about it. We take things for granted, and that's not a good thing, just to be taking things for granted. It's not good to be ignorant of the simple processes, and that which is harder we tend to think more about it. It's the psychological effect of the struggle to get to the end, is often a greater recognition of process than that which we do quickly and easily, which actually might be more effective. We just don't think about whatever it is that exists or whatever it is that comes natural to us. So there's a whole wealth of elements that are important and that need to be incorporated into our thoughts about how to keep the environment clean. I've just created a word. The environment clean. Welcome back. The environment clean.
Isn't
clean,
that like a name of an
clean.
oil company or something? Glean.
Clean. Cleaner Oils.
Yeah.
I think that is a company actually. This podcast has been sponsored by Gleaner Oils, or it would be good if there were any sponsors at all. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But it's such a word, isn't it? To glean. Doesn't that mean to understand something?
I don't know.
I gleaned an insight into the workings of the company. It means to learn, or to get information or to understand how something works. Related to understanding brightness, illumination, intelligence, etc., etc. Right.
Yeah, I just want to give you an example of how things could be made better without ruining the economy, right? For example, one product, right? I've
Good. I'm going to listen to you and then tear your argument apart.
I'm in the process of ordering the shampoo and the conditioner for to use instead of the bottled stuff, and they're called naked products, right? And they just make a bar. Yeah, you buy a tin for the bar if you want to, but you don't really have to. You can just use it as a soap. You don't really have your soap in a tin all the time, do you? But if you want to make sure that
Ever.
it lasts longer or whatever, you can keep it in a tin. I don't know. The point is, you can buy bars, like soap bars, of shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, makeup, cream, facial cream, oils for your body, massage oils, anything you can buy in a solid form, right? The company pops it in the packaging. Don't know what type of packaging it is. I will tell you once it arrives, okay? But I hope it's going to be environmental friendly, and they send it to you, yeah.
Free.
And what you're buying is just the bar, yeah. Which means you're not buying a shampoo or conditioner that's in a plastic bottle, right? You go to, if you go to a supermarket, you can buy soap bar, which is in a paper box. Yeah, or you can buy liquid soap, which is in a plastic bottle. You have rows and rows and rows and rows of plastic bottles full of not so friendly cosmetic products.
Okay.
All of them use SLS, which is made out of palm oil, which promotes deforestation and is bad for your skin, right? Because it dries up your skin, and so on and so forth. So you have a whole industry that uses product that is not good for you, that promotes deforestation and creates massive amounts of plastic waste. And all you need to do is change that product into bars, right? Into solid stuff, which is better for your health, doesn't harm environment, yeah, and doesn't use plastic for packaging. You can still produce tons and tons of it, right? You can still keep the cosmetic industry going. You just change the product and the packaging of the product, yeah. And it doesn't have to cost that much more money. Maybe you would pay a little bit more for the oils that you use because you wouldn't, you wouldn't use cheap palm oil, but you would use something, I don't know, something else. But what's wrong with that?
Well, let me tell you not what's wrong with it, but what's complicated about it.
Uh-huh.
Right? A number of times in your little presentation, you said, all you have to do is just do this and just do that.
Uh-huh.
As I know from my work with a person in the coffee bean industry,
Uh-huh.
getting the right kinds of coffee beans is really complicated, much more complicated. So there are coffee beans there, but a lot of them are low quality.
Okay.
And so just getting the right kinds of products you need is extremely complicated. Even getting the nuts that they need for their products, extremely complicated. Getting the right kinds, getting them from the right region, getting them at the right time. So just getting certain things ignores a whole process of events that happen. Now, in essence, looking at the end result of what you get, you're right. However, if I go back to the nuts for chocolate example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can get higher quality, more organic nuts. But that would mean going to a company, say that maybe had certain methods of production and employment that were maybe less ethical than a company producing some other type of nut that was more readily available, because they'd spent more money on marketing and less money on the comfort of their employees and human resources.
Yeah.
So it's extremely complex. The word just does not create a valid argument, because the processes involved are now being
the problem with
environmentally friendly is a simple idea, but the processes involved in doing it are extremely complex, and the consequences of effect are not understood fully, because the company that I'm talking about, which is a real company, could, in essence, be much more environmentally friendly, but the costs, the external costs of that would actually be worse at this moment in time, because you have to do research, you have to get information, you have to do scientific analysis.
So the problem with my argument is the word just.
No, the problem with your argument is what I've explained, because you said you just have to, and I'm explaining what that just means.
Yeah, I understand that it's complex, okay? I understand, but
there's
setting up a company that
this person has to take university professors with specific degrees from one part of the world to another part of the world in order to analyze products using scientific methods, in order to assure that they're getting the right products in their factory in another part of the world.
Well, thank God. Good, that's the way it should be.
But that's not environmentally friendly.
Who's not environmentally friendly? Well, taking other people to check stuff, that whether it's good quality. Is that not environmentally friendly?
But the whole process is extremely expensive, involves a lot of travel,
involves
a lot of money.
You cannot compare person taking a flight to go to Brasilia to check some nuts.
Well, no,
with
it's
reduction of tons and tons of plastic.
Okay, now here's something that is really important that you're not thinking about. You're just saying a person. We're talking about a person who has been funded by public taxpayers' money for 15 to 20 years to work in the area that they're in, right? So you can't get that person without that funding, which is a use of resources, and you can't until you understand the whole process of all the resources you're using to do something.
Yes,
you can't use the word just as an argument.
I'm trying to explain to you that you would not stop the industry going. You would not stop the money to coming into the economy. You would just change the product.
It's not just is not an argument, though.
Yes, darling. Okay, can you give me 5 minutes?
We'll put it on in a couple of minutes, okay?
Okay, I'm not going to use the word just then. All you have to do is you have
to do. I mean, we're talking about a 20-year process.
Yes, I know it's a process.
And you're saying all you have to do.
I know it can't be done like that. I'm not stupid, okay? I know it's a long process, but it should be aiming in that direction. Because if you go to the supermarket and you look at all that cosmetics, which is probably not even going to get bought, right? All of it. I mean, there's stuff upon stuff upon stuff in plastic. People are overusing it, using too much. You've got the SLS in it, right?
What stuff upon stuff upon stuff?
Well, I'm talking about the cosmetics.
Okay, yeah, but let's be
in the little
specific.
plastic bottles,
'Cause
shampoos
I
and
don't-
conditioners. Okay, let's
Let's
talk
be
specifically
real.
about shampoos and conditioners. Okay, SLS. I love SLS. You know why I love SLS?
'Cause
Because
it's 3
SLS
letters?
is something that is put into the cosmetics for purely marketing reasons. It creates massive deforestation, okay, in order to plant palm trees, in order to extract the palm oil from them, yes, and it is put into cosmetics purely for marketing reasons, just because it creates nice foam and because it makes you feel cleaner, even though it doesn't really make you cleaner.
No, I think it's a good thing to remove all of the, if it's possible, to remove unnecessary, unhealthy elements. And there's another thing though, which is key, which is if you shift your industry focus, there's the question whether or not you should be, because you said earlier, you know, it's not moral to do certain things, or you've got moral responsibility. Okay, my question is, where does the moral responsibility end? Because if it doesn't end, then what if you have a contract with this company and they're producing palm oil, right? And you're like, I don't want to do that because I know that's bad for the environment. I'm going to shift to this company. What if that company is dependent upon your contract? And you can argue, that's their problem, right? They should have thought about that before. And that's a valid argument. That's
I
fair.
don't want that company to exist. I do not want that company to
What about
exist.
the people who work for the
if
company?
it
What about
deforests?
their wages? What about their families? What about their food? What about their homes? What about their bills?
Look, those people are probably being exploited anyway
Probably
in
is
that
not an
company.
argument.
Okay, so those people can find other things to do, better things. If there's not that company,
That's your argument. Those people can find better things to do.
Yes, absolutely.
What?
Listen, those people were there before that company came and started exploiting the forest, okay? They were there, they lived, they had life, they existed, they had something to feed them, okay? That company that decided that they're going to plant palm trees and you know, deforest the whole chunks of land, they're not a salvation for those people. Those people were there before the company came. Okay?
Question. What if, and here's the theoretical possibility, the company moves into an area and it brings into that area all the positives and negatives of the modern world, right? You know, the negatives, well, it might bring in like cigarettes and alcohol, right? That would be a negative thing. But the positive thing would be, what if it brings in roads? What if it brings in a little airport? What if it brings in some kind of commerce? What if it brings in telecommunications? What if it brings in the opportunity to communicate with people across the world? What if it brings in building materials for stronger houses? You know, I don't know, the air conditioning if it's hot, or double glazing if it's cold, or whatever systems that are necessary to give people a safer, more sustainable kind of lifestyle.
Listen,
And this
it's a
is
what
built
if, what
from
if,
the
what
industry
if,
going into
right?
the area.
This is what if. Well, if they did that, and if the company is closing down, then what if the company told the people, hey, look, we're getting out of here, but you could move, right? You could go into that village, which already has a great infrastructure, and you
That's
know,
an argument.
if you want.
Telling people
Whatever.
you can move. You can't say that when, I mean, okay, we're dealing with a semi-theoretical model.
Obviously, we're talking hypothetically.
Well, no, because I actually know, I'm actually thinking of specific places that I've seen like little documentaries about when, you know, companies move in, what happens to the local people that's good and bad, right? So,
Well,
I'm
listen,
thinking real.
The company wasn't supposed to be there in the first place.
Well, then you can argue no company's supposed to be anywhere. That's great for economics then. That's a ridiculous
No,
argument.
I'm talking particularly about the companies that exploit the environment in their area, that came there to cut down half the forest to for their economical benefits.
Yeah, I think that saving the rainforest is the job of the people who are living in that country. We can give advice to help them, but I think that we don't fully understand the complexity of their situation. We've seen documentaries about it, but
Listen, those countries are being effed. Those countries and their economies are being effed by the Western world already.
no, but
so-
why are they not being? Why is there not an argument that says they're not being screwed up by people in their own country who want to make money very quickly and are taking advantage of the situation and taking advantage of their own people to make money? Because you can't build a business in any foreign country without a complete infrastructure in that company using local people, local government, local networks, local taxpayers' dollars. You can't do that. You can't just go to another country and exploited. There are extreme examples, maybe if you're a giant oil company or maybe you're Coca-Cola or whatever, yes, but in general you can't go to a foreign country and exploit it without using the people, the government,
Well, of
the systems
course.
of that country there. That's how government works. Government
Of
employs
course.
local people to make local decisions. You
Yes,
can't
I
have somebody else.
understand
So saying that foreign companies are exploiting that, no, it's their own people who are allowing the companies in. They're making contracts with them, they're making agreements with them, they're letting them set up, they're knowing exactly what they're going to do. So it's their own people that are screwing their own people. It's not the foreign companies. It's the own people that are screwing their own people.
But it is the responsible of the whole planet to stop deforestation because that little chunk, right, in that country, say let's talk about Brasilia, right? The rainforest in Brazil are influencing the whole planet, right? It's not just their responsibility to deal with it.
Point. Can I make a point about that? You're right, but let me give you a counter argument. There's a very strong counter argument, right? What if somebody in Brazil had said, like 1,000 years ago, you can't deforest Britain, you can't deforest the country, it's really bad for the environment, and
They'd probably
Britain,
be right.
wait, no, that's what I'm saying.
Hmm?
They would at that point in time have been absolutely right. But you know what would have happened if that hadn't happened? There would have been no growth of British industry, which had with it its positive side and its negative side. Like I fucking hate the whole slavery thing and the British Empire and the attempt to dominate everybody. It was all fucking horribly wrong, right? But on the other side, you had engineering growth, right? The ability to build roads and bridges
like
and
people-
manufacturing industry and
People wouldn't
textiles.
be able
and
to do all that without deforestation.
that would not have been possible because deforestation fueled the economy.
Look, there is a massive difference, okay? A massive difference between using your natural resources in a sustainable way
Which
and
Britain
between-
did not do.
and between going to Brazil and chop down trees in the speed of, I can't remember.
It's
how-
not
how
foreign
fast
companies that are
was.
chopping down the trees. It's Brazilians that are chopping down their own trees.
Yes, because foreign companies pay them for it. They're
Yeah, they
employed
don't
by
have to
foreign
chop down their own
companies.
trees. They don't have to chop down their own trees. It's their choice.
Yes, but I'm trying to tell you that there's a huge difference between doing it somewhere in a country sustainable to grow their own economy, right? And it's different to do it at the speed that the Brazil is doing it. It's yeah.
They're doing it at the speed. Yeah, is it? You know,
People
it's like what is it like a
adapt.
football pitch
Okay.
every minute or something? I mean, it's some ridiculous
Listen,
amount.
it's ridiculous to say that Britain wouldn't have been able to grow as much as it did.
No, it's not. That's a fact.
without
That's
deforestation.
a fact. And let me give you.
Look at
let me
France.
give you, no,
France has forests and it developed pretty quickly. Look at Germany.
France is not an
Germany-
island.
Germany has developed,
France is not an island.
and it didn't have to chop down massive amounts of trees.
Finland
Finland is pretty developed and didn't have to chop down massive amounts of trees.
Look. The argument for Finland is correct. The argument for France and Germany, I'm pretty sure that's not completely correct. The argument for Britain, though, is definitely correct. Okay, that and how much of what France and Germany did piggybacked on what Britain did.
Oh, you can turn that back to France and say the same thing for Britain piggybacking on them. That's how trade and commerce works.
Which modern country? Which modern countries developed the modern principles of trade?
I don't know.
In terms of setting up the the laws of the sea, which were the original trade agreements,
I
right?
don't know who set up the laws of the sea.
Okay. We see this is very important. This is the understanding.
Portugal? I don't know.
This is very important for understanding the history of commerce and how commerce developed. We wouldn't have the commerce that we have if those industries had not developed. We wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have principles of agreement. We wouldn't have concepts.
You don't know that. It's the same argument like, oh, if there weren't vaccinations invented, we would all be dying of these diseases still. You don't know if we would or if we wouldn't, because if it developed in a different way, people could have adapted and create other ways of creating other types of industries, products, yada yada yada.
But the
so
argument, but argument irrelevant because it didn't happen. Okay. Argument irrelevant because it didn't happen.
Yeah,
let's look at what happened. What happened is what I said happened. What happened is what I said happened. The commerce and industry that we have developed was as a result of that. In Britain, a large part of the industry that was developed and the laws of the sea, which were the original laws of commerce, were created by Holland, Portugal, Spain, and Britain, right? And that was how trade grew. Now, for Britain, to allow that to happen, we needed to have deforestation in order to have industrial growth. Now, was it wrong to have the deforestation? It was very bad for the environment. Over the last 100 years, Britain has tried to reverse it, but we wouldn't have been in the economic position that we were in if things had stayed the way that they were.
Look at Slovakia, okay? If we're not just talking about producing oxygen, because deforestation creates massive problems which do not only
the trees don't clean the air because they're
with
not
cleaning
there.
the air, but in Slovakia the government sells everything to private companies,
which is Slovaks,
fucking
Slovaks,
right.
Okay.
And what happens is the private companies will come and will chop down the trees, right? And what happens next is flooding, landslides.
When you say private companies, you actually mean that Slovak people allow people to do things. You have to get the permission of Slovak people to do things.
Private companies and
private Slovak companies because they have to have people.
Hey, can you calm down, okay?
Yeah, but it's not Britain that's doing that.
Did I say it was Britain?
No, but that was the previous argument was.
I said private companies specifically. I did not say foreign companies. I did not say Slovak companies. I said private companies because it's whatever private company buys that land. It can be Slovak.
Yeah, but you did say
Czech,
foreign companies before.
Foreign. I was talking when I was talking about Brazil. I did say foreign companies, yes, but now I'm not talking about Brazil. I'm talking about Slovakia, and I said private companies. So let's stick to the facts, okay?
Haven't made an argument yet.
The private companies chop down the trees and it creates massive environmental impacts that impact massive amounts of people. So yes, there is a few people that gain jobs by chopping down the trees, but there's massive amount of people who lose their homes, have their property damaged by the floods, have their property damaged by the landslides. You destroy the
massive amounts of people have their property damaged by landslides in Slovakia. Is that your argument?
Massive amounts of people have.
That's not argument, because there are not massive landslides in Slovakia.
There are no massive. I didn't say massive landslides. I said landslides,
you
floods,
massive
and
amounts,
massive amount of people.
You said massive amounts of people have their homes destroyed
by floods, and
which is because people build their houses too close to the river.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
People don't build their homes too close to the river.
Yes, they do.
Okay. Have you been in Horné Orešany? Yes?
I'm not talking about people who don't build their homes close to the river. I'm talking about people who do build their homes close to the river. People
They
who build their
don't-
homes close to the river build their
listen,
homes too close to the
They
river.
do not get flooded because they built their homes too close to the river.
They do in Bystrica.
Yeah, you're talking about one town and
They do.
about.
They do around the Dunai.
Oh, for
There's
Christ's sake.
There's two examples. There's two practical examples. For Christ's sake is not an argument.
Look, if you take forests away, all the water that rains in the hills runs straight back down and floods whatever
Yeah, and takes
Right.
it takes the land with it, but people don't lose their homes
that
because of that.
river there, right? That was running normally for decades and decades, suddenly starts flooding the areas around it, right? So people who had a house in the vicinity.
Hello, darling. Well, I will. I can go and put it on. I can go and put it on, but you have to make your argument.
I am making
For-
my argument,
for the
but you're not
podcast.
going to hear it.
Well,
So
you
people-
didn't hear mine when you left earlier. It's fair.
Well, go and
That's,
put it on then,
I'm
but
gonna put
hurry
it-
up, okay?
Hurry up.
Yes, hurry up.
Okay. So you have to make your
You can't take your
presentation.
earphones with you.
Okay.
So people who would have, who were living near the stream, which doesn't even have to be a river, it just has to be a stream, right? So people who were living in the vicinity of the stream for decades and decades and had no problems suddenly get flooded and get the property damaged, and it is all because of the destruction of the natural forests. And I'm not even talking about the destruction of the habitats, which influences the local animals, which end up homeless, and then it's just you could argue, well, who cares about the animals? Let's care about people and the economy, but that's just not right. I don't see how you can ever argument for or argue for things that are so obviously harmful to the environment, because what is harmful to the environment is inevitably harmful to the humans. So if we go back to Brazil and we look at the deforestation in Brazil, okay, well, maybe you are giving jobs to some people who didn't have those jobs before, that were still there, and they were still capable of sustaining themselves there even before you came. So obviously you didn't save their lives by bringing this job to them, okay? You just came and used them. So even though you are giving these people jobs and are paying them money and are maybe creating roads or whatever, which if they didn't create themselves, if it didn't develop naturally, then obviously they didn't have the need for them, right? Because if they had the need for them, they're people, they would have come up with it.
Well, what?
So even though you are
I'm back,
giving them
I'm
a
back.
little bit, okay, even though you're giving them a little bit, you are taking away from them a lot more, because you are destroying their future and you are destroying the future of their children. Do you think that if you came
you
to those
contradicted
people,
yourself.
if you came to those people and you told the people, hey, I'll give you a job, you cut down these trees for me, it probably means that in 100 years, you know, your offspring will have massive problems because this will have a huge impact on the environment in long term. But hey, I'm going to pay you for this, and you need me to pay you for this because your life is not good enough, because you were missing on all these things before we were here, right? So, I mean, it's not. Of course, the people wouldn't say, "Oh yes, let's go and do this.
It's going to do what?
Let's go and cut down the trees." So that you can pay me,
But
so
they
that
do.
you can, so that
They
I can
do.
then buy things that I don't need, you know, because now you're telling me that I need them and I
you-
believe you.
Well, we don't know what it is that they're buying and whether or not that is going to improve the quality of their life or not. That's an individual
But my
choice.
thing, my argument is not going to improve the quality of life in long term. It may improve it for a while, yes, okay, maybe they, oh God, look, if a company creates such massive deforestation, I highly doubt that they're moral enough to offer their new employees proper medical care or, proper schooling or whatever. Even if they do, then
Okay, question. How is the company
yes.
more liable than the individual if the individual makes a choice, A, to accept the job from the company, and B, to cut down their own trees?
Because the company may be manipulating them. Because the company may
That's
not
not-
be telling them.
That's not an argument. The
showing them
company
the-
may be manipulating them. I mean, that's a conversation you don't know.
It is always the company that is liable for it because the company creates that situation. The situation wouldn't be there if the company didn't come.
Also, the situation would not be there, same argument, if the people did not agree with accepting the money and chopping down their own trees.
Yes, but the company is the originator of that situation. It's not the people who came up with the idea, it's the company that came up with the idea.
So, are you saying that those people who have ideas are more liable than those people who don't have ideas?
Those people, no, I'm saying that those people who decide to act upon their ideas and to set in motion a chain of events because of their ideas and because of their activities are completely liable for the results of those activities.
Where does the chain end?
Wherever it ends.
That's not an answer. That's just.
Well,
like
what kind of
brute
question
force.
is that? Where does the chain end? Well,
Well,
it's individual for each company and for each chain that they created.
Okay, because the moral argument about what is right or wrong is kind of defined by where does it end, and the argument there is that it doesn't end ever, and that everyone is always morally responsible for the results of everything. And
Look,
you can make assessments, and you should make assessments. There should be risk assessments, but there are also unpredictables in everything as well. Like you can make a risk assessment of, like you can build something like in an earthquake zone, right? And you can make a risk assessment. I mean, people build cities in earthquake zones, right? And you make a risk assessment whether or not there's a high probability of an earthquake, and yet people still build there. So there's a question about who is morally responsible then. If someone had the idea to let's found a city in a region where there's earthquakes, and then this city grows up there, are all the people who founded the city morally responsible for every negative action that then happens there?
Gee, you are relativizing. Is that even a word?
No, I'm just repeating to you what
You are
you said to me.
relativizing something.
I'm just repeating to you what you said to me.
No, you're not, because I wasn't talking about earthquakes. Something that is
okay, I was using the earthquakes.
Simple, okay? It
I
is
was
extremely simple.
I used the earthquake example as an example of where does the moral argument end, because if it doesn't have an end, then you create a commercial time bomb.
You are trying to. Maybe you're not trying to, but look, it is easy. Listen to me.
I can explain it to you in a simpler way.
You don't have to, because I understand what you're saying, okay? It is easy and simple. And if we stick to the topic, then you have to agree that massive deforestation of the rainforest in order to produce a substance that is harmful to individuals and has no positive effects in cosmetics is absolutely outrageous and stupid and just should not be done. Deforesting rainforests in order to produce a toxic substance that only serves marketing purposes is not a good idea. Do you not agree with that? It's as simple as that.
I agree with the fact that I don't agree with the fact that it's simple. That's what I don't agree with.
It's very simple. It's as
only if you
simple
ignore
as that.
only if you ignore the moral argument of where do the consequences for your actions end. Because
I
if
can
you-
see where the consequences of my inactions end.
Mhm.
The consequences of my inactions in this area, and with nature destroyed, habitat destroyed, climate change. I know you don't believe in climate change.
I do believe in climate change, 100%. The climate changes all of the time.
Yes. Well, not for the better if you cause a huge deforestation. It's not in those areas, even if we don't talk about global climate change of temperatures, but I'm talking about the climate change in that area of the world.
Can I give
No.
you another? Can I present my argument in a simpler form?
Which argument? I just forgot what I was talking about.
Okay.
You interrupted me.
Okay. You're saying that I cannot possibly disagree. Your argument was, you said that I cannot possibly disagree something, okay? Or you said, your exact words were, you have to agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no, first of all, you have to agree is not an argument, okay? Second of all,
It wasn't an argument. It was just a statement.
yeah, but I mean, okay, good.
Because I can't
So-
imagine anybody disagreeing
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, what is correct is your principle. The principle is correct. Absolutely correct. 100% correct. The practicality of it has massive inherent problems. And let me explain that. And so we're talking about deforestation, but I'm going to make it a simpler argument, and then I'll apply it to deforestation if it's not clear. Okay?
I
no,
just
wait,
want
wait.
to finish my previous sentence, which I didn't get to finish because I was interrupted, which was that the effects of my inaction is not only the deforestation and everything that comes with it, but it's also the toxic stuff that gets flushed down people's drains every day because of using these products, and is the bad effects on human health because of use of these products, and is the production of plastic waste. Massive plastic waste, because these products are stored in teeny weeny little plastic bottles that people use once per month and throw it out.
Mhm.
Do your own math.
Yeah, yes, I agree with that. Totally.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's my point. Right. Basically, we could look at deforestation as a crime. Would you see it as some kind of criminal activity because of the massive negative effects that you explained?
It is a criminal activity if you do it in areas that are protected by law.
But if the law does not protect it, it's not criminal. Is that what you're saying?
It's immoral. It's not criminal. It's not illegal.
Okay.
If it's not,
So
set
your
by
your
the law.
argument is that
Talking
it's
about terminology here.
it's
Okay.
immoral.
It's totally immoral. Yes.
It's immoral because, and why is it immoral? Explain that to me so I get this clear. And don't say because people flush the chemicals down the toilets and here and why is why is it? Just get this clear in my head because it's really important for the argument. Why is it immoral for Brazilian people to chop down Brazilian rainforest?
Because they're doing it in a way that's unsustainable and that it diminishes massive amounts of the local habitat, harms
Okay.
nature, harms the
Okay,
climate.
okay. There's a word in there which is not an argument, which is it's the fact that there does not exist anything which is completely sustainable. It doesn't exist. Okay, so an argument such as, like, I understand. Well, when I say sustainability, what I mean is that I don't want shit to be wasted. Okay, that's what I mean.
That's not what sustainability.
Well, sustainability is impossible.
Sustainability.
100%
means
sustainability
I
is
take away
impossible.
here, I give away there. Okay, they're taking
But that's business.
and taking and they're not giving anything else away. It's like, okay, I'm talking
They're not
about this.
giving
Yes,
anything else
in
away.
Slovakia.
They're providing jobs.
Talk about Slovakia, yes? In Slovakia, what used to work this way, right? You
Mhm.
chop down these trees
Mhm.
because you need to use them for wood.
Mhm.
At the same time, you had what they called nurseries, where you plant trees
Mhm.
to recover the forest,
Mhm.
yes? Does that happen in Brazil, where they're chopping down the rainforest at the speed of, was it like 500 football pitches a day?
I don't know. I would be very
That does not.
I would be very surprised. I'll take your word for it. But I would be very surprised if there's not a reforestation program going on. Okay, and the problem with that is that the reforestation obviously would not be natural, and that
Of course,
that
and
would obviously be
it would
a
not really
negative thing.
recover the
Yeah,
habitat.
yeah,
It would
absolutely, I
not
agree.
recover the homes of the millions of animals that are getting homeless
Okay.
every month.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, it's not the argument I want to make, and I don't want to get into it. But if you had if you chopped down a hectare of trees and replaced it with a hectare of hemp plant, I mean, you could actually have some sustainability in the environment. Anyway.
Yeah, the orangutans still wouldn't thank you for the hemp, though, would they?
I don't know. They might want to smoke every now and then, but
Well, no.
Okay, so back to my original point.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what you're saying is that Brazilians chopping down Brazilian rainforest is immoral.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So let's find something
It's
else.
arrogant.
Okay. Let's say I have a bicycle, and you steal my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that immoral?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's immoral for you to steal my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if my bicycle I had stolen from somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and you stole my bicycle? Would your act still be immoral?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Would it be any less moral? Would it be any less immoral because the bike was stolen?
No.
No. Okay. Right. So, let's say I have a bicycle and I bought the bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
and the bicycle's mine because I bought the bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
and you steal my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Is your act immoral?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if I bought the bicycle with stolen money? I stole somebody's money. I used that money to buy the bicycle, and you stole the bicycle from me. Would that be immoral?
Yes.
Would my actions be immoral?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no difference
Between stealing and stealing? No, really.
in that principle. But there is a difference in how you view my actions when you get more information about my actions. If you didn't know that the bike was stolen, you would see it as I bought the bike. That's okay. Well, the bike wasn't actually stolen. Actually, it was paid for with stolen money, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't know if you were working in the shop, and I walked into the shop and said, "Look, here's the cash. I want this bicycle. You give me the bicycle. I go away. The guy in the shop's happy, and I'm happy,
Mm-hmm.
and some motherfucker somewhere else is really fucking pissed off because I've stolen their money to get the bike."
Mm-hmm.
But the person in the shop's really happy because they don't know the money was stolen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once you get more information about something,
Mm-hmm.
that changes your perspective of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so things are more complex. It's not just I go into a shop, I give money to somebody, and I get the bike. It's like that money might have been stolen.
What's your point?
I'm
Can you
getting-
get to the point?
Yeah,
please?
I'm getting to my... What I'm doing is establishing the principles, right?
Yeah, you can do it faster. I'm following you.
You're
quite
following
well.
me. Okay, so is it clear that the more information you get, the more complex things become?
The more information I get, the more I can decide what's moral and what's not.
Yeah, and a lot of the time we don't have enough information, right?
So,
So it's very difficult for us to make judgments about what is right and wrong without specific information. Is that correct?
in certain situations,
Well, in this situation that I gave, it would be incorrect to say that everything was okay if you didn't know the money was stolen. But you can never really know the money is stolen because you can never really have all the information.
well, I don't know. Sometimes you can have that information.
Yeah, but in general, people working in shops don't know where the cash is coming from when things are paid in cash, or even if it's paid in credit or whatever. Right?
Well, in general, okay.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know. So they're actually, taking part in what is essentially an illegal activity. They're not aware of it, but they think they're doing right, but they're actually taking part in something that's wrong. It's not their fault because there's no way they could know, and it's not their job to know, but that's not important.
Yeah, what's your point?
My point is, firstly, number one, that we don't have enough information to make decisions about other people's lives in other places in other countries, and not that the deforestation is a good thing. Okay, like, I'm not arguing that. Okay, we don't have enough information. The second point is that the perceived morality of what is right changes over time. Now, morals don't change, but perceived morality changes because it's human perception. Now, if I have a bike and you steal my bike and I see you, running away with my bike, and I run and, I throw you off the bike to the ground and I grab my bike back and I'm like, that's my bike, motherfucker. Get off my bike. Stay away from me. Are my actions okay?
Are your actions okay?
Yeah, is it okay for me to, run and throw you off the bike and grab my bike back? Because, look, in my book, I would be quite justified in doing that. Even if it harmed you, I'd be like, this is my bike, you get what's coming to you.
Well, you protect your property.
Yes.
Yes, that's. I think that's generally recognized by law as well as your right to protect your property.
Yeah. Now, if you're going to use the legal argument, you have to realize that if I physically harmed you while getting my bike back, that I could be charged for physically harming you. Right? Would that be correct?
Probably not. No.
So, yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think you suffered the punishment of the result of your activity, right? I mean, that would be part of the punishment for it, right? I would be like, it's ridiculous that you take me to court for hurting you physically, right?
Well,
but
yes.
but we also have to realize in society that kind of happens a lot.
Well, what
right?
does that have to do with rainforest? Can you please
Yeah.
get to the point?
Yeah, I'm building the argument. I can't just say something because then it's possible that you will misunderstand the argument that I'm making. Okay, the argument which I have to counter your point about you have to agree. Okay, I'm countering that point of you have to agree. Yeah. So here's the next stage. I'm building it up in stages. The next stage is I have a bike. You steal my bike, and I can't find you. I don't know who stole my bike. But let's say the next day, I see you riding my bike. Is it okay for me to go to you, throw you off my bike, and grab my bike back?
Are you 100% sure it's your bike?
There you go. There you go. Enter question mark, right? Enter the fact that time creates other probable scenarios. Time creates other probable scenarios, and time creates the transfer of activity and information that we are unaware of. And so we get to the point where what was, to me, the right thing to do today suddenly becomes the wrong thing to do tomorrow because of the passage of time, and that's about activity and information transfer. Now, if we take that one step further and we go like what if I see somebody else riding my bike after 2 weeks? And it's like, what if I know it's my bike? I'm like, I check the serial number. It's like they've parked the bike somewhere, and I check the serial number, and I'm like, that's my fucking bike, right? And I'm like, and I find the person. I challenge the person. Like, you stole my bike, and they're like, well, no, I bought it from this person. Do I have the right just to grab my bike back? Well, obviously I don't, because the situation is far more complex.
No, what you do is you go to the police, both of you tell the person who stole the bike and who sold it to the other person. You go to that person, you arrest that person for stealing the bike, you get the money back from them to pay back to the person who bought the bike originally, and then you get your bike back. That's what would be the right thing to do.
Yes, absolutely the right thing to do. But we know that in most cases, that's not the process that happens.
I don't know, because I never had a bike stolen.
Okay, but let's just say it's far more complex than that, because it involves whole long processes, and what we're talking about might take, in a positive sense, it might take a week, right?
What's
because
your
you gotta go
connection to the rainforest?
My connection to the rainforest is that the situation which you said you have to agree, I argue, it's far more complex. The fundamental principles are correct. The deforestation of the rainforest is has an effect on environment and climate, and there are massive negative impacts. But at the same time, there are other impacts that we are completely unaware of in the same situation, and we can't make a complete judgment about what is right or what is wrong until we are aware of those other elements.
But you have
which
to
is
make those
tricky.
judgments all the time.
You can make the judgments about things which are personal to you, but you can't make the judgments about things that are personal to others.
But you're still making them.
I'm
You're
not.
making them. Yes, you are.
I'm not making a judgment about the rainforests.
Do you have a child?
Yes, but I'm not making a judgment about the rainforests.
Do
You just said I'm making them all the time. I'm not making a judgment about the rainforests.
I didn't say rainforest.
You
You
s-
said that
just-
you can't make judgments about other
I'm talking
people.
about
You
the
can only
rainforest.
make.
You wanted to talk about the rainforest.
Yes.
I cannot make a judgment about the
It's
rainforest.
the same thing like your child. Okay? It's I'm drawing an analogy here. Yes? You have a child and you decide about their education. You don't know what the possible outcomes are going to be in the long term. You can guess, you can think, you can make your best assumptions. Yes, that you're trying to decide the best what's for them. Yes, and you go in a certain direction.
That's my
yes?
argument. I agree with that completely.
You don't know. Right?
Yes, I
But
agree
you
with
still
that.
have to make those decisions, and you still have to make those judgments. Whether they're right or wrong, you will find out later. But you still have to make them because you know that if you didn't do anything, the outcome would not be positive, right?
So that's a different argument. But I understand it. It's a
So
different
you
argument.
have to. You.
If you don't do anything, is a powerful argument. It's a different argument from what was stated before, but it's a powerful one.
Look, the bottom line is that the rainforest is not just getting used, it's exploited. Okay, it's being cut down in a way and in a pace that is harmful to all the living things that are there. Who says that?
Question.
Who says that
Can I get more information about that?
Who says that
Okay.
it is more important for a local chop down person to make more money than it is for a local orangutan to survive and, live with their family in
Okay,
that tree?
as a personal thing for me, I like orangutans, but I like people more. So if I had to make a choice between people and orangutans, if I had to, I would choose people over orangutans. But that's just a personal thing.
Yes,
for
but
me.
you don't have to make that choice. That's
But
my
you just
point.
said I have to make choices.
You don't. But yes, but you don't have to make that choice. You just don't bloody deforest the forest. It's not going to kill those people who don't chop down the
Look, can
trees.
can I ask a question about that to get more information from you? Because there's something which is not clear to me.
Okay.
Have we slowed down the deforestation of the rainforests?
I don't
And
know.
I don't mean like I say we.
I don't
as
have
kind of-
that information. I don't know.
Okay, because
But I
that
think so.
information I think is really important, right? Because if the process of deforestation has sped up, that would be a worrying signal, right?
Mhm.
But if the process of deforestation has slowed down,
Mhm.
that would be a positive signal.
Mhm. Yes.
And I think
agree
that
with
information would be useful to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as gathering data is part of the process. Gathering data is helpful to making decisions, because if deforestation has sped up, that would be that would be cause for debate and discussion. But if deforestation has slowed down, there would be an argument for the fact that if we can, say, reduce it by 1% each year for the next 50 years, that would be a sustainable target within that period of time.
Mhm.
So that's how I would look at that issue, realizing that sustainability in essence changes as nothing lasts forever, right? So you've got to reorientate, refocus, reorganize, recalibrate.
Okay, tropical forest loss slowed in 2017 to the second worst total ever. So it looks like we went from the worst total ever to the second worst total ever in 2017.
Yeah, that sounds good and bad at the same time. Okay, I mean
Oh, shit.
that sounds like it's going in the right direction, but it's still not good enough. I mean that's what
It
that
says that
sounds
despite
like.
efforts to reduce tropical deforestation, tree cover loss has nearly doubled over the past 15 years. In 2017, 39 million acres disappeared. An area close to the size of Washington state.
Yeah.
And there,
Oh.
there.
Oh, you want another Paw Patrol? Yeah,
Yes, darling.
sure thing. Sure thing. Sure thing.
Washington state. The
I mean,
area,
look, there's-
area
there's
of the
the-
size of Washington state.
Yeah, okay. The two,
right?
but that only creates two questions in
For
my
just
mind.
1 year. Mm-hmm.
The two questions are: one, is deforestation the same as tree cover loss? And the second thing is, what happened to the forest? What did it actually do with it? I mean, where did it go? What industries was it used for? Was there any attempt to reforest, to replant? What happened to that area? I mean, I would just be about gathering more data about it. I mean, obviously the trend in the past was negative. Is it still negative now? What direction is it going in? Would it be useful to slow
In
down
tropical regions
deforestation?
around the world,
Probably.
tree cover is disappearing quickly. Every minute of every day over the last 2 years attract the size of 40 football fields. 40 football fields per minute. Okay.
Yeah, I said in one country, I said in Brazil it would be one football field a minute. That's what I said.
It's
I thought.
40 football
Okay.
fields of tropical forests. We're talking about tropical forests. Were cut down or burned to increase production of soy, cattle, palm oil, and wood products. 40 football fields a minute.
Soy and palm oil.
Yes.
Yeah, that would suggest that's probably not a good idea. I
Yes.
mean, putting-
Those two
replacing it
products
with
are
animals,
terrible.
it's small scale, is understandable. I mean, we did that here. That's why we got farms here.
Mhm.
So I don't think we want those countries to end up like this country. That would bother me. And what I would look at is
That would
is-
bother you. That would bother the whole world, I'm afraid.
well, no, I think most people don't care about it, to be honest.
I'm not talking about psychological bother.
Yeah,
okay?
I just
I'm
think
talking
that's-
about physical bother.
Yeah, but I just think most people don't care, and by the time they do care, it's too late for them to care. So,
It's already too late if you're cutting down 40 football fields a minute.
well, that's my question. Is I don't have enough information. It doesn't look good, but I would look for more data about it, right? I mean, if the process is slowing down.
What's the matter?
Yes.
Sure thing, guys.
And
What's up, Will?
when am I going to have my breakfast?
In about
3
2
minutes.
2 minutes.
Well, 3 minutes because I need to cook it first.
Go get. Will's not happy with 3 minutes.
It's a cute.
What's that?
It's a cute lizard.
What's it? Will, hey, Will, did you put it on for them, or did you just wander away? Okay.
It's a cute lizard. It's disappeared. It's a
what-
cute lizard.
Let me have my unicorn bracelet.
That's great. Did you want to watch Paw Patrol?
Yes.
Could you go and watch it then, please? Thank you very much. Don't worry about the unicorn bracelet later.
Yeah, I've lost it.
You've lost it.
I've lost the cute lizard.
How can you lose a lizard on your phone?
It's just gone.
How big is that lizard?
I don't know.
Does it eat people?
It's in my phone, so it probably does.
It's in your phone!
Yeah. It must be small if it can
my God, is that
fit
real?
into the phone.
How does it get out of there?
I don't know.
Welcome to the Carbonaro effect.
Yeah. Something that he would do, isn't it?
It
Put a
is.
lizard in the phone.
Well, he turned a paper goldfish into a real goldfish.
Yeah.
Ooh, everything is falling off my bedside table.
It was the
is a
neuro
chair.
linguistics thing was funny when he changed his outfit, but he told the people you won't notice the change straight
Oh
away.
yeah, did you
Yes, I picked up on that. You won't notice that change straight away, and people
get?
didn't
He also,
notice.
he also did it with
Apart from that one guy
in
who
the
pissed
gym.
himself
He
laughing.
was doing it with the people in the gym.
Yeah. What?
With were you talking about in the gym?
Yes.
Okay.
He changed into that ridiculous tank top and
yeah.
that.
He was doing the neurolinguistics there, and He also did it with the girl with the ball.
Yeah.
He did it with her. He touched her as well.
Yeah.
So he was using the
But how did he do it with that ball though? Did he like hold it, or what did he do? How did he do it? How did he get the ball stuck to her?
he must have had. I'm just
Maybe the ball was sticky or something.
wild guess, right?
Mm.
Wild guess that he was using a leg or an arm to keep it in position,
Hmm.
and so he must have had something which looked like it was not.
Yeah. Well,
Like
he
a
was
fake
behind
arm.
her. He was behind her, so you
She-
couldn't
she-
really see
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
when
You
he
could
was
only
doing
only
that.
see
Yeah.
the outsides of his body. The weird thing is that she believed that she was doing that herself with her own muscles.
That was really
moving
funny.
the
Yeah.
ball around. If you haven't seen the Carbonaro effect, you know, I was looking for. There are 4 series.
Mhm.
Series. I don't know the plural. I think the plural of series is series. Anyway, there are 4 series of it, and
Mhm.
only you can only get the first one online.
How
You
did he
can-
get the? How did he do the car thing? How did he make the bloody car disappear and then drive it back in?
when the guy was sitting there?
Yeah, he must have just driven it out of there like through the back or something. But the car was in the type of garage thing, and the guy was sitting right in front of it. The garage must have had like a removable wall at the back
I
or
have.
something.
Oh wow! They'd had like. They'd like lifted up like the back part like it was a removable wall.
Yes,
'cause
but
it
the
looked
guy
like-
would hear the car driving. They would have to like pull the car out or something, so he can't
you
hear
very
the
often-
engine.
You very often are unaware of that which is unexpected.
No, I don't know. That was freaky.
But your attention is
I was
focused
like-
on your attention is focused on other things. So you don't.
The guy was so freaked out. Oh, I
See.
felt so sorry for him. He
what is
was
going
like,
on.
"Oh my god, I'm in trouble. I'm in such a huge trouble." And when he drove back in the car, you can just see him just going, "Oh, thank goodness."
Or the balls that only have a specific number of bounces in them, and people actually believe that.
That was funny as well. Yeah, some of those things you can imagine how he does it. You know, that he can produce something
there
out
were-
of his sleep.
Or the
whatever,
animals were
but-
living in balloons, and that people could take them home if they wanted.
Do you know? There's one thing I
That
don't
was
get.
scary.
There's one thing I don't get, that those people don't find it disturbing.
What, that they get tricked?
No,
I find
This-
it
that
disturbing.
woman didn't find it disturbing at all that there should be an animal living in a balloon for 2 weeks. I would freaking punch him in the face. If I
Well, people
I'm
are
not
re-
going to say that stupid enough, because I believe that you could get fooled by things that you will never believe later on that you actually got fooled by them, right? So I don't think those people are stupid. I just think that they got tricked, right? Caught unawares or whatever. So if you believe, right? If you let yourself be tricked into believing that actually there was a little animal living in a balloon for 2 weeks, you should be outraged by the amount of cruelty, right? of having a small animal living in a freaking balloon. Because that's a horrible thing, right?
Oh, well, like people believed that you could automatically send stuff instantaneously to other places, like physical stuff, right? I mean, that was kind of freaky.
It's just the thing with the animals, like, oh, you can create a frog out of this matter, and then you can like dehydrate the frog or whatever and create the matter back out of the frog, right? It's like,
Well, it was when
it's just so
there was the egg
wrong.
box, and they opened up the egg box, and the little chickie bird was in there, and the
Yeah.
woman was like, "Oh, that's so cute. Can I take it home?"
Yeah.
Like, what? Are you not worried that there was a live animal in the box of eggs? I
Yeah,
mean,
but that woman was actually like had the most human reaction to these animal tricks that I've seen, because everybody's like, oh, that's all right, you know. Everybody's like, oh, there's a live animal, you know, stuffed in a little box or dehydrated or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, she was the only person who was interested in, you know, oh, what are you gonna do with it, you know, if I give it to you. She was like, what are you gonna do with it? Oh, can I take it home? You know, it was a human reaction that you would expect of somebody. Not just going, oh, hey, that's cool that you've got a bird living in a balloon for 2 weeks.
it does. I mean, look, what's my bottom line? It's a mistake to think that people are thinking, right? It really is a mistake to think that people are thinking, and so
Oh, look, I think it would be very arrogant from me to say that, oh, this couldn't happen to me, or whatever, you know. Oh, these people must be stupid if they believe these things. Because you haven't been in that situation. You haven't had somebody neurolinguistically trying to play tricks on you like that, so you don't know. You can assume.
yeah, but
you know.
the great argument about that is that you don't know that you don't know, because
Yeah, you don't know.
you don't know if it's happened, right?
Maybe you have been bamboozled before.
Oh, I'm sure that it's happened to all of us at some point in time.
Okay, I have to finish because I need to go make those pancakes.
Oh, you're making pancakes?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I'm making keto pancakes.
And how do you make keto pancakes? Do you make them the same way as you make normal pancakes? Obviously not, because...
Obviously not, because then they wouldn't be called keto.
Yes.
No, you make them low carb. You make them without wheat flour. You put in coconut flour, lots of eggs, some cream cheese. I don't have any psyllium husks.
Excuse me. You know, what kind of tusks? What kind of animals do you
Psyllium
do?
husks. I don't know if psyllium
What
husks. but I'm
what the
pretty
hell is
sure
a
that
psyllium husk? I have no idea.
It's it's like, do you know the plantain plant?
You fucking what now?
There's a plant called plantain, and there's a certain type of that family of plants that when the flowers create these husks that
Okay.
you then can gather or whatever, pick, collect, and you use them in cooking. And
Right.
what they do is they absorb the water. First of all, they provide fiber
Okay.
because they're almost pure fiber, and also they are water absorbent. They absorb water and they thicken stuff, so it's like a healthy thickener fiber provider type thing that you use in baking, in keto baking, because it has 0 carbs and lots of fiber, and you can thicken things with it instead of wheat flour.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So yes, I might find them in Holland, in Mr. Holland, and Mr. Barrett.
So all the way to Holland.
Yeah,
It's a long way to go.
I have to wear a beret while doing it as well.
A what?
Beret.
Ah, Zibéry.
Yeah.
Mon Dieu. C'est très formidable.
Uh-huh.
Avez-vous le béret?
Yeah. So I might find it there.
Le béret, la béret.
And I'm not going to invest in these things just yet, though. I'm gonna build it
No,
up
you
slowly.
don't need a berry. That's for sure.
Anyway, yeah. So
For sure.
I'm gonna go and do that. Bought a lot of cream cheese yesterday, so.
That just sounds weird. Anyway,
I did. I want to do the low carb as well.
do it.
But also I want to have them tested for what I told you that I want to have them tested for,
Yes.
the gluten allergy. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to remove gluten from his diet completely, because then I couldn't have him tested,
Mhm.
because he could come up with a false negative.
I think there might be somebody in the bathroom now.
I know, that's why I'm waiting.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay,
Are
Finished.
we done? Are we done?
finished. You have not
Done.
convinced me at all.
Oh, my aim was not to convince you. I mean...
You have not convinced me at all. I still find these certain things as clear as day and absolutely non-negotiable.
Yes. I like to understand consequences.
Yes, sure. I'm sure it does have certain negative consequences, but I believe that leaving the situation the way it is would have much larger negative
Yeah.
consequences.
I've just seen things that I thought were good turn bad, and things that I thought were bad turn good. So, you know, I'd like to...
Yeah, removing 40
Hedge.
football fields a minute cannot possibly turn good if it continues that way.
But let me add something to that. If 45 football pitches were removed 5 years ago, and it's only 40 football pitches this year, then the trend would actually be positive.
It's still not fast enough.
It's just not fast enough for you.
It's still not. Even if it was one football pitch a minute, it's still a freaking lot. Okay.
Oh yeah, of
But it might be
course.
sustainable in some, in some. I don't. Well, I don't think it is actually. But
I mean, but those statistics are. I mean, if you look at how many people are made homeless every year in a country somewhere, I mean, those statistics are frightening as well. So I mean, there's lots of frightening numbers.
yes, I know. But you have to start with something,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what the best thing would
Doctors kill 220,000 people a year.
be. Look,
in
how
America
how
alone.
you talked about focus, that you have to focus on the things with larger impacts than the things with lower impacts. Well, you can
whoa,
do.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Both are important. I didn't
Yes.
say you have to focus on one above the other.
Well,
Both are important.
okay. Sorry if I misrepresented you. What I wanted to say is, you can set up.
Would you like to have one more, Jazz? Okay, one more, but this is the last one, okay? Because then you have to go and have breakfast.
You can set up
Mm-hmm.
a scheme. People like to
Morning.
call things schemes here in this country. You can set up a scheme that will
Will has given us an egg timer.
good. That's
To
exactly
finish our
2 minutes.
Is it?
That's a 2-minute egg timer.
How do you know that?
'Cause
Did
it's
you
for brushing
did you-
teeth.
Did you count the grains? Oh, that's a timer for brushing teeth.
He got that from the dentist yesterday.
Seriously?
Uh-huh.
An egg timer for brushing teeth.
Yeah, it's exactly 2 minutes.
I'm using it to time the call so I can have my breakfast.
Okay.
That's cool.
So you could set up a scheme that will focus
When
on
it gets
the
halfway
most
through, I can-
important bits
No, I can't.
at the same time. And that will make sure that you make progress in all of these areas environmentally. You can set up a scheme that's going to have, like, okay, we have a stop deforestation section, we have a stop plastic pollution section, we have a, I don't know, whatever else, stop toxic waste section, we have a stop nuclear testing section, and you can focus on all the areas at the same time and improve them one step at a time, because you could set people, different people to do different things.
Yes.
So there you
No,
go.
I get that. My argument is that fishing is not unsustainable. That's my argument. There we go.
Fishing is, there was a double negative.
Yes.
There was a triple negative.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a complex argument.
You probably just said fishing is unsustainable. You said fishing is not unsustainable, which means fishing is unsustainable.
Oh, I put triple in, didn't I?
Yes.
Fishing is not unsustainable. Wait.
But yes, because the two nots
Oh,
cancel each other
yeah.
out. So
Yeah, that was stupid.
yeah, it was.
That was really stupid. So it should be fishing is not unsustainable.
Fishing is not unsustainable. I don't think so either.
That's it. See, screwed that one up, didn't I? So
Fishing is not unsustainable. Human greed is.
unsustainable.
Uh-huh.
Not everybody's.
Well.
You can't class everybody together.
Okay. Bye.
Done. 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 Why are you playing with your legs?
Because I've got a
What's...
bubble. I don't know where it came from.
Ah, women and their legs.
And I've got a... Look, where does this came from?
Oh no, look, the sand's still going through.
I'm coming.
That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to come over and flip it for 3 minutes because when it reaches just one half up, one half down, that's going to be 1 minute.
Yeah, but how'd you get 3 minutes out of that?
You stop it in the middle.
No, you only get 2 minutes if you stop it in the middle.
But as in the 3-minute timer,
That's a 3-minute timer.
it's a 2-minute timer.
Okay, it's a 2-minute timer, right? It's an egg timer. It's a 2-minute timer, right? When it gets halfway through, how much time is at the bottom?
1 minute.
Good. And how much time is at the top?
1 minute.
1 minute.
One
What?
at the bottom is how much time has passed.
Yeah, but if you turn it around the other way, Yeah, but how'd you get 3 minutes out of a 2-minute egg timer?
Let's see.
Hmm?
Wait for it to go down. Wait for it to all go down once.
Yeah,
Flip it over.
Yeah.
Wait for it to go down halfway, and
yeah.
it's gone more than halfway down.
Okay,
It's gone more than 3 minutes.
you win. The sun is shining. That's all we need.